My parents called me, laughing, to thank me for their wedding gift. The gift? My $480,000 apartment, which they had just sold out from under me to pay for my sister's $300,000 wedding. Then, as if that weren't enough, they told me I had 30 days to move out. But they made one fatal mistake: they forgot who had been secretly paying the mortgage on their house all these years. Before I tell you how this betrayal plays out, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you've ever been the responsible one in your family, the one everyone leans on until there's nothing left to take, hit that like button. You're going to want to see this. My name is Imani Washington, I'm 29 years old, and my life runs on logic, design, and deadlines. As a senior UI/UX designer at a major tech firm in Atlanta, my days are clean lines and client presentations, wireframes, and workflow, an elegant order that my family's chaos can never seem to touch. My condo in Buckhead was my sanctuary. Every minimalist chair, every soft neutral tone, a quiet fortress against the noise of my family. That peace shattered when my phone began to explode with notifications. I was mid-Zoom with a big new client from California, walking them through the user flow of their upcoming app, calm, confident, and in control. My phone, set to silent, was flashing like a Christmas tree. Mom. I ignored it. Ping. Alicia. Ping. Mom. Ping. Mom again. 10 missed calls later, my client, Mr. Harrison, paused mid-sentence. Imani, is everything all right? You seem a bit distracted. I felt my cheeks flush. My apologies, Mr. Harrison, just a quick family matter. Give me 30 seconds. I muted my mic and camera, snatched the phone off my desk, and stormed into the hallway, whispering furiously, Mom, I'm in the middle of a major client presentation, this had better be an emergency. The sound that came through the phone wasn't an emergency. It was laughter, loud, giddy laughter, the kind that fills a room and leaves no air for reason. In the background, I heard the pop of a champagne cork and music. Imani, sweetie, guess what? It was my mother, Denise, her voice bubbling with excitement. Then came my sister, Alicia, 27, the golden child, the family influencer, practically screaming into the phone, we did it, Imani. We booked the St. Regis. The grand ballroom. Can you believe it? I pinched the bridge of my nose, my patience already frayed. Okay. Great. I really have to go, no, wait. Wait. Mom cut in, breathless. That's not even the best part. Then, with the kind of joy only ignorance can fuel, she said, it's all thanks to you, baby. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're a lifesaver. A chill crawled up my spine. Thanks? For what? I didn't, what are you talking about? She laughed. That airy, dismissive laugh she used whenever I tried to talk about money or boundaries. Oh, don't be so dramatic. I sold your Buckhead condo, sweetie. The sale closed this morning. We got such a fantastic price, $480,000, cash offer. Can you believe it? It's more than enough for the St. Regis deposit and Alicia's couture dress fund. Isn't that wonderful? The hallway tilted. I had to brace myself against the wall, my hand trembling. My condo? I managed. Mom, what are you talking about? You can't, my name is on the deed. You can't just sell it. Her voice shifted, gone was the bubbly tone of the excited mother. What came back was the cold precision of the 55-year-old real estate agent who knew every loophole in the book. Oh, no, baby. You must be misremembering. Our names are on the deed, mine and your father's. Yours isn't listed anywhere. You just contributed to the payments. Legally, Imani, it was our property to sell. And we needed it for your sister. She's getting married, for heaven's sake. I couldn't breathe. $90,000, my first big tech bonus, gone. 60 straight months of mortgage payments, each one I made myself, documented, tracked, and real. Mom, I whispered, where am I supposed to live? But she kept talking, her voice gliding over my words like they didn't exist. Anyway, the new owners are lovely, a nice white couple. They're giving you 30 whole days to move your things out. So generous, right? We have to go, baby. The wedding planner just arrived with the floral samples. We'll celebrate this weekend, okay? Love you. Click. The line went dead. I stood there, frozen, in the middle of my hallway, inside the apartment I had just learned wasn't mine anymore. From my laptop in the other room, Mr. Harrison's voice drifted faintly through the speakers. Imani? Are you still with us? Did we lose you? I stared at the wall. The shock in my chest was hardening, crystallizing into something sharp, cold, and heavy. They had finally pushed me too far. The war had just begun. I clicked end meeting. No goodbye to Mr. Harrison. No apology. No reschedule. Just click. The laptop screen went black, and suddenly my own stunned reflection stared back at me, blank, hollow, and foreign. My living room, my beautiful, carefully curated sanctuary, felt like a movie set now. Everything looked too perfect, too still. The soft gray sofa I'd saved 3 months for. The abstract art I'd fallen in love with at that little Atlanta festival. The faint scent of my expensive soy candle drifting through the air. None of it felt real anymore. Because none of it was mine. 30 days. They'd given me 30 days to pack up 5 years of my life and disappear. My mind began to rewind, trying to trace the moment the trap had been set. It didn't take long to find it. 5 years ago. I was 24, high on ambition, running on caffeine and adrenaline. I just landed my first big promotion at the tech firm. There was $90,000 sitting in my account. Hard-earned. Every penny scraped together from scholarship refunds I never touched, every performance bonus, every late-night freelance web design gig I took instead of sleeping. That money was supposed to be the start of my adult life. My first home. My independence. My proof that I could build something on my own. When I showed my parents the listing for this very condo, my mother, Denise, smiled. But it was that tight, practiced real estate smile. The kind that never reached her eyes. Oh, Buckhead is ambitious, Imani, she said, stirring her sweet tea like she was mixing a potion. My father, Marcus, just nodded, looking like he was about to deliver bad news wrapped in concern. Honey, your credit's still new. You're 24. Getting a jumbo loan in that neighborhood is tough. The bank might see you as a risk. I told them I didn't need a jumbo loan. I told them I had the down payment, $90,000, cash, and a pre-approval letter from the bank. That's when my mother placed her hand over mine, the gesture she reserved for manipulation disguised as love. Sweetie, I know you're smart, but let us help you. Let your dad and me co-sign. We have the credit history. It'll make everything smoother. Just a formality, of course. Paperwork. A formality. That's what she called it. And like a fool, I believed her. I thought my parents were finally seeing me as an equal, supporting me, proud of me. I transferred the $90,000 to the escrow account. I signed every piece of paper they handed me. And then the bills came. And I paid them. Every single month for 5 years, mortgage, HOA, property taxes, never late, never missed, never asked them for a cent. I was Imani, the responsible one. The one who made it out, who made things work. I thought I was building my future, my equity, my independence. But standing there in that hollow apartment, it all clicked into place. This had never been about my credit. It had always been about their asset. This was never a formality. It was a long con, and I had fallen for it completely. They'd painted Alicia as the one who needed saving. Alicia, the girl who got a brand new white BMW convertible for her 18th birthday while I scraped together enough tutoring money for a 10-year-old Honda. Alicia, who quit Spelman after 2 semesters to become a full-time influencer, which, in practice, meant my parents covered her midtown rent and endless brunches. I remember the night I'd finally lost it. I'd yelled at my mother, raw with fury. Why does she get everything handed to her while I bleed for every single thing I own? Denise's face went hard. She pulled out the same line she'd used my whole life, the one designed to shut me up, because Alicia is sensitive, and money, the world is hard on a beautiful, delicate girl like her. She needs our protection. You're different. You're strong. You can handle it. She was only right about one thing, I am strong. But she'd mistaken strength for gullibility. She thought I was a workhorse to be ridden until I collapsed. A savings account to be drained for the real daughter. They'd just stolen $480,000 from me, and they expected me to say thank you. The chill in my veins flipped from despair to something else, sharp, precise, and white-hot, rage. Focused, cold fury. I grabbed my keys from the bowl by the door. I wasn't going to pack. I was going to war. The drive to Alpharetta blurred into a red streak. I don't remember traffic or signaling. I only remember my knuckles whitening around the steering wheel of that dented Civic, the same car I'd bought at 19 because my parents were writing the down payment for Alicia's BMW. I pulled into their driveway, tires skidding on perfect pavers. Their two-story brick colonial sat like a postcard on its manicured lawn, the house my mother loved to brandish at church as proof of the Washingtons' respectability. In that neighborhood everyone waved and pretended to be happy. I didn't knock. I didn't ring the bell. I used my old key and stormed through the front door. Where is she? I demanded. My father, Marcus, was exactly where he always was, in the den, sunk into his worn leather recliner, the TV blaring a football game. He looked up, annoyed by the interruption. You sold my house, I screamed. The words tore out of me, echoing through the high-ceilinged foyer. You let her sell my house. My father sighed, that long, weary exhale he'd perfected over the years, the one that said I'm the victim of your emotions. He picked up the remote, turned the TV volume down a notch, but didn't mute it. He couldn't even give me his full attention for this. Imani, lower your voice, he said without looking up. Don't come into this house acting crazy. We did what was best for the family. Best for the family. The phrase hit me like ice water. My money. My home, I said, shaking. How could you just give it to her? Don't be dramatic, he snapped, still half watching the game. It's just a condo. Your sister needs this. Alicia is getting married, do you understand what that means? This boy, Chad, his family has status. This is a huge opportunity for all of us. She deserves a beautiful wedding. He said it like it was scripture. Like it was self-evident truth. She deserves it? My voice cracked. At my expense? What about me, Dad? What do I deserve, to be homeless? He waved a hand, dismissive, his eyes never leaving the screen. You'll be fine. You're smart. You make good money with that computer stuff. You always land on your feet. That was it. My reward for being the strong one. My punishment for being responsible. I'm calling a lawyer, I said, my voice trembling. Then louder, I'm calling a lawyer. I'm suing you both. This is theft, you stole from me. A new voice cut through the air, smooth and deliberate. A lawyer? I turned toward the staircase. My mother, Denise, stood at the top, wrapped in a cream silk robe, her hair pinned in a perfect towel twist, looking like she'd just stepped out of a spa instead of my life. She glided down the stairs, one manicured hand trailing along the polished banister. A lawyer, she repeated, almost tasting the word. Then she laughed, short, sharp, ugly. Is that what you said, Imani? You're going to sue your father and me? The people who raised you? Who put a roof over your head? You didn't put a roof over my head, I shot back. I've been paying for my own roof for 5 years, and you just sold it. She reached the bottom step, eyes flicking over me with that familiar blend of pity and contempt. Go ahead, baby. Call your little lawyer. Spend your money. He'll look at the paperwork and tell you exactly what I'm telling you now. The deed of trust has my name and your father's name on it. Yours? nowhere to be found. But the payments, the down payment, I have the bank records, she interrupted, voice soft but cutting like glass. Oh, sweetie, that's so naive. She crossed into the living room, picking up a magazine from the side table as casually as if we were discussing the weather. Any money you contributed was rent. Rent you paid to live in our property. As far as the law is concerned, you were a tenant, an ambitious one, I'll give you that, but a tenant nonetheless. She flipped the magazine idly, not even looking at me. I've been a licensed real estate professional for 25 years, Imani. I read every line of the fine print. I know exactly what I'm doing. She tapped the magazine against her palm, satisfied. You were a risk. We protected the asset. And now that asset is being liquidated to fund something more important, your sister's future. I just stood there. Speechless. Because there was nothing left to say, not to people who could look you in the eye and still call betrayal love. The rage drained out of me and left something colder in its place, a clinical, terrifying clarity. This wasn't a crime of passion or a snap decision. It was strategy. A slow, patient calculation. They hadn't made a mistake, they had prepared for this for 5 years, fattening me up for the slaughter. My mother glanced up from the magazine, eyes blank and merciless. You've made your scene. Go home and start packing. The new owners are eager to move in. I'd hate for them to file for eviction, that would look messy. The next morning I sat in a glass-walled downtown law office across from Tariq James. We'd gone to Georgia Tech together, he was the one person I knew who understood systems better than I did. He went into law, I went into code. I'd already emailed him everything, the mortgage statements, the $90,000 wire, 60 months of bank records showing payments from my account to the lender. I vibrated with a cold, focused rage, waiting for him to tell me how we were going to tear them apart. Tariq didn't look at me. He was staring at his second monitor, scrolling through the PDFs of the closing packet from 5 years ago. He let out a long breath and rubbed his temples. Imani, he said, his voice flat. They got you. What do you mean? I snapped. I have the records. I paid the down payment. I paid every mortgage payment. It's my money. Tariq's face tightened with real pain. It doesn't matter what you paid. It matters what you signed. He turned the screen so I could see the deed. My parents' names, Marcus and Denise Washington, were the only ones on the deed of trust. My name wasn't on the title. Legally, I wasn't an owner. I had never been. But the payments, I insisted, louder now. The $90,000, that's wire fraud. It proves I was the owner in every meaningful way. He cut me off gently. It's her word against yours. We can file suit, constructive trust, unjust enrichment, quiet title, whatever, but it will be a bloodbath. Your mother's a licensed broker. She knows the fine print. She knows how to build a paper trail that looks clean. He leaned forward, earnest and blunt. You wanted proof of what happened? There it is. But don't kid yourself, this is not a simple win. This is a long, ugly fight. The moment she stepped into that house, she knew exactly what she was doing, Tariq said quietly. And the moment we file, she'll countersue. I frowned. For what? She'll claim the $90,000 was a gift from a grateful daughter. She'll claim the 6 years of mortgage payments were rent. Rent? I scoffed. Who pays rent and a $90,000 down payment? They'll say it was a deposit, he said grimly. Or back rent. Or a family contribution. They'll say whatever they need to. And honestly, a judge might believe them. It's your word against theirs, a family dispute with no written agreement. These cases don't move fast, Imani. It'll take years. It'll cost you $50,000, maybe $60,000 in legal fees. And at the end of it, a judge might just shrug and call it a family matter. You could walk away broke and still get nothing. My stomach turned to concrete. So that's it? I whispered. They steal $500,000 from me, and they just win? As if on cue, my phone buzzed on the glass desk. A new email. The subject line hit like a blade, official notice, 1422, Buckhead Terrace, Unit 12B. My hand trembled as I opened it. It was from a law firm I didn't recognize. On behalf of the new owners, Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, this letter serves as official notice to vacate the premises within 30 days. By October 28, failure to comply will result in formal eviction proceedings. I slid the phone toward Tarek. He read it, muttered a quiet curse, and exhaled through his teeth. They're not even waiting. They're playing hardball. I stood up, but I didn't feel my legs. I didn't feel anything. I wasn't just betrayed. I wasn't just robbed. I was outplayed. My mother hadn't just stolen from me, she'd outsmarted me. She'd taken everything I was proud of, my trust, my discipline, my love, and weaponized it. And she'd done it flawlessly. I walked out of Tarek's office in a daze, my phone still glowing in my hand. In the parking garage, I sat behind the wheel of my Civic, staring at the eviction notice like it was a death certificate. 30 days. In 30 days, I would be officially homeless. I had lost $500,000. And just when I thought the humiliation couldn't possibly sink any lower, my phone lit up again. A new text from Mom. Hi sweetie. Just a reminder, don't forget our big celebration dinner tonight. 7 p.m. at the St. Regis, at that amazing steakhouse. Alicia and Chad are so excited. We have so much to celebrate. Don't be late. Red Heart A celebration. They weren't just robbing me, they were inviting me to the party they were throwing with my own money. They wanted me to sit there and smile while they toasted to my destruction. I showed up at 7 p.m. The steakhouse at the St. Regis was the kind of place that made you feel poor just by breathing the air. 2-story ceilings, dark mahogany walls, chandeliers dripping with crystal. The kind of quiet that only comes with wealth, the hush of people who never have to raise their voices to be heard. I walked in wearing the same clothes I'd worn to Tarek's office, black slacks, a silk blouse, nothing special. In a room full of sequins and diamonds, I looked like a server who had wandered off shift. They were already gathered at a large circular booth in the center of the room. My mother, Denise, was radiant in a vibrant blue dress, laughing too loudly, the picture of triumph. My father, Marcus, sat beside her in a new suit I'd never seen, his chest puffed out with borrowed pride. And then there was the golden couple. Alicia, 27 and luminous, her skin glowing under the chandelier light. A 5-carat diamond flashed on her finger every time she moved her hand, catching the light like it was trained to find her. The red designer dress barely covered her shoulders. Next to her sat him, Chad Thompson, 30, tall, blonde, with that lazy, polished grin that came from a lifetime of doors opening for him. The kind of smile that said, the world was built for people like me. I slid into the booth, the leather sighing under my weight. Sorry I'm late, I murmured. Oh, Imani, there you are. Alicia squealed, her voice sugar and venom all at once. She leaned across the table, squeezing my hand, her diamond digging into my skin. I'm so glad you made it. Oh, honey, you look exhausted. Packing must be awful. I can't even imagine. The message underneath her tone was clear, thanks for packing up your life so I can have mine. Before I could answer, Chad raised his glass of dark liquor toward me. Imani, right? Good to finally meet. He didn't wait for acknowledgement. Listen, I just wanted to say thanks for the contribution. He said the word like he was talking about a charity tip. I was telling Alicia, he went on, swirling his drink, a wedding under $300K just isn't realistic these days. Not with our family's friends and expectations. So, really great of your family to, chip in to make it happen. He flashed a perfect white smile. He was patting me on the head. A wealthy white man, thanking a black woman for bankrupting herself so he could have the appropriate wedding. My skin burned under my blouse. I waited, just a flicker of defense from someone at the table. But none came. My father boomed, proud and oblivious, isn't it wonderful, Imani? Our little Alicia marrying into the Thompson family. What a blessing. My mother smiled beside him, serene, victorious. The queen surveying her conquered land. She had won. She'd bought her way into the social ladder she'd always worshipped, with my future as the currency. The waiter approached, polite and professional. "Can I get you a drink, miss?" "A Cabernet," I said, my voice flat. "Your most expensive one." "Bring the bottle." For the next hour, I drank. I drank while they laughed about floral arrangements that cost $10,000. I drank while Alicia debated whether her bridesmaids should fly to Paris or Milan for dress fittings. I drank while my mother told a long, glowing story about Chad's father's company and how blessed our families were to be united. Every laugh, every toast, was another shovel of dirt thrown on the grave of my old life. And I was being forced to sit there and watch the burial. I finished my third glass of wine. The rage and the alcohol were a dangerous mix. The room felt too bright, the air too thick. I couldn't sit there another second, watching them clink glasses over the wreckage of my life. I pushed back from the table so fast the silverware rattled. Conversation died mid-laugh. "Imani, are you all right?" My mother's voice sliced through the quiet, sharp, irritated, performative concern. I looked at her. My vision had narrowed to a pinpoint. "I need to talk to you," I said, my voice low and steady. I nodded toward the back of the restaurant. "Now." "In the ladies' room." Something in my tone made her rise. She followed me, heels clicking on the marble floor, the curious eyes of nearby diners tracking us as we disappeared behind the gilded door. The restroom was all white marble and gold fixtures, soft classical music whispering from hidden speakers. It felt sterile, cold, a tune pretending to be elegant. My mother crossed her arms, leaning against the granite counter, her perfume filling the air. Her face was composed, annoyed, not remotely concerned. "All right, Imani," she said sharply. "What is this? You're making a scene out there. Chad is going to think our family is unstable." I laughed, a thin, broken sound. "Unstable? Mom, he thinks I donated my house to his wedding fund. How is that not unstable?" She didn't move. Just stared, waiting for me to finish my tantrum. The wine was buzzing in my blood, loosening the fear that had been strangling me for days. I took a step forward, my voice trembling, desperate. "Mom, please." The words scraped out of me like glass. "Please stop this. Call the bank, call the buyers. You're the agent, you can fix it. Say there was a mistake in the paperwork. Anything. That condo was everything I had. My down payment. My savings. 5 years of my life. I'll have nothing left. Please don't do this to me." She just watched me. Her face didn't soften. Not a flicker of guilt. Not even pity. She looked bored. With slow precision, she turned to the mirror and pulled a sleek gold tube of lipstick from her clutch. The faint click as she opened it echoed off the marble walls. She began to reapply the deep red color, her gaze fixed on her own reflection, not on me. "Don't be so selfish, Imani," she said finally, her tone calm, almost soothing, like she was scolding a child for misbehaving in church. My jaw fell open. "Selfish?" I repeated, my voice cracking. "I'm being selfish? You stole $500,000 from me." She capped the lipstick with a soft snap and turned toward me, her expression smooth and icy. "I reallocated a family asset," she said evenly. Her eyes locked onto mine, dark, cold, and utterly certain. "You're 29 years old, Imani. And all you have to show for it is one little condo and that computer job." Her tone dripped with disdain at the word computer, as if it were something trivial, beneath her. She stepped closer, her heels clicking against the marble. "Your sister, on the other hand, is about to enter a dynasty. A legacy. That's the kind of future worth investing in. The Thompson family has connections we've only dreamed of," my mother said, her voice smooth as silk. "This wedding isn't just a party. It's an establishment. It's about our future." It's about the Washington name finally meaning something in this city. I whispered, barely audible, but what about my name? My future? She stepped closer, her hands reaching to adjust the collar of my blouse. The gesture was almost maternal, precise, gentle, and it made my skin crawl. Your future, she said softly, is to help your family. That has always been your role. You are the strong one, remember? Sometimes, one person has to make a sacrifice for the greater good of the family. Her hands gave my collar one final dismissive pat. This time, Imani, it's you. Then she pushed past me, leaving the faint scent of her perfume trailing behind, and walked out. I was left alone, staring at my own reflection in the mirror. She was right. I was 29, and I had been a fool. My entire life had been spent chasing the love of a woman who saw me as nothing more than a resource, a tool to be used, a sacrifice to be made. I looked closer. The pleading daughter was gone. The desperate child was gone. In the mirror, there was only a hollow, cold silence staring back at me. I smoothed my blouse, turned, and walked back to the table. Sat down. Picked up my wine glass. And smiled. Alicia didn't even notice I'd been gone, too busy showing Chad photos of flower arrangements on her phone. It was a few days after that humiliating dinner. I was living among a canyon of cardboard boxes. My apartment, my beautiful, stolen apartment, felt alien. I couldn't stand being inside it. So I sat in my car, engine off, parked in the garage. The air was thick and still. On my phone, I had Zillow open. I scrolled desperately, hunting for a place to live. 27 days. That's how long I had. The prices made me want to be sick. A one-bedroom in any decent part of Atlanta? $2,800, $3,000. And that was before first month, last month, security deposit. I did the math. I didn't have it. My $90,000, my life savings, was gone. They had taken everything. I would have to cash out my 401k, pay the massive penalties, just to avoid being homeless. Tears of frustration blurred the screen. Then my phone rang. Mom and Alicia, FaceTime, it said. My stomach clenched. I let it ring twice, then realized they would just keep calling. I wiped my eyes and pressed the green button. Their faces exploded onto the screen, flushed and glowing with excitement. They were somewhere bright, white, mirrored, a high-end bridal boutique. Alicia stood on a pedestal, spinning in a mountain of white lace and sparkling tulle. Imani, oh my God, look! She squealed, twirling like a princess. This is it. This is the one. Isn't it perfect? My mother stood beside her, holding a flute of champagne, her smile wide, victorious. And for the first time in days, I felt it, the last flicker of my old self dying. The pleading daughter was gone. The cold, calculating Imani was awake. Hi, baby. My mother's voice was bright, giddy, the sound of someone who had never lost a thing in her life. We're just so excited. And we were just talking about you. We wanted to say thank you for the wedding present. Alicia clasped her hands together, the 5-carat diamond on her finger scattering light like a disco ball. Yes. Thank you, sis. Thank you for my dress. I love you. They both laughed, a bright, tinkling, happy sound. I just stared at them. They were standing in a boutique surrounded by mirrors, draped in lace and champagne bubbles, thanking me for my gift, the gift of my stolen future, wrapped neatly in white tulle and entitlement. They were thanking me for the life they'd taken from me. I didn't say a word. My mother's smile wavered, just a hair. Imani, honey? Did you hear us? We said thank you, you know, for the condo money. I pressed the red button. The screen went black. The call was over. And just like that, the tears stopped. It was as if someone had flipped a switch inside me. The rage, the humiliation, the despair, gone. In their place was something new. Something cold. Something beautifully solid. Ice. I sat in the silence of my car for 1 full minute. Then I closed the Zillow app and opened my banking app. My checking balance was dangerously low. I tapped Bill Pay. A list of scheduled payments appeared: student loans, car note, and then there it was. The big one. Recipient, Truist Bank amount, $4,150 memo, mortgage account #8849-25 property, 22, Magnolia Drive 22, Magnolia Drive. The elegant two-story brick colonial in Alpharetta. The house my mother flaunted to her church friends. The house where my father watched football on Sundays. The house they were probably sitting in right now, toasting their victory with my money. Because what they didn't know, what they never knew, was that I had been secretly paying the mortgage on that house for the past 8 years. Every single month. I looked at the screen. Then at the cardboard boxes stacked in my back seat, my life packed away in brown paper and tape. They had taken my home. So I took my finger, and I pressed cancel payment. A pop-up appeared: "Are you sure you want to cancel this payment and all future scheduled payments to this recipient?" My hand didn't tremble. Confirm. The button turned gray. Done. I left the parking garage. I couldn't go back to the apartment, not yet. I drove until I found a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town. A place where no one would recognize me. I ordered a black coffee I didn't want, sat in a dark corner, and pulled out my laptop. I opened my SecuriDrive, my personal vault. Tax documents. Old contracts. And one folder I hadn't touched in years. It was labeled, Family Assets. I clicked. Inside were scanned PDFs and old email threads, all dated 8 years ago. I was 21 then. Fresh out of Georgia Tech. My first real job. $48,000 a year. I thought I was rich. I was living in a studio apartment, saving every penny I could. That's when the first call came. It was my father, Marcus, his voice cracked, hollow. He'd been laid off from his management job. Downsizing, he said. He was 50, and in his mind, his life was over. He'd sounded desperate. And I, back then, had been stupid enough to want to help. My mother, Denise, with her fledgling real estate career, wasn't bringing in enough to cover their mounting expenses. The pristine brick colonial in Alpharetta. 2 car payments. The country club membership they refused to give up. I found the first document. A scanned letter from the bank, addressed to Marcus and Denise Washington. The words were huge and terrifying: notice of default. Foreclosure proceedings were starting on 1422 Magnolia Drive. Then I opened the email. It was from my father's personal account, sent to my new work email at 2 in the morning. I remembered reading it on my phone, lying awake in bed at 21. The subject line was simple: Imani. Imani, my girl, I don't know what to do. The bank is taking the house. Your mother, she's a wreck. She can't face the people at church. She can't face the neighbors. They're going to put a sign on our lawn, Imani. They're going to auction our home. Everything we've worked for, all our dignity, gone. I remembered the cold dread that had curled through me as I read it. You're the only one, the email continued. You're the smart one. You're the one with the good job. I know you're just starting out, but you're our only hope. I am begging you, Imani. Don't let them humiliate us. Please, I promise I will pay back every cent as soon as I get back on my feet. Please save your family. Save the family. That was always my job. The strong one. The responsible one. I didn't even hesitate. I took every penny I had, the $15,000 I'd scraped together from my first 6 months on the job, and I called their bank. A 21-year-old girl, fresh out of college, calling the foreclosure department like she knew what she was doing. I found the next email in the folder. From the bank. Subject: Confidential Loan Modification Agreement, 1422 Magnolia Drive. My 21-year-old self had felt like a hero. My 29-year-old self, sitting in a quiet corner of a coffee shop, finally understood the truth. I hadn't saved them. I hadn't been the savior. I had been their secret, silent enabler. I stared at the screen, reading the old email chain, the terms of the so-called confidential loan modification agreement. It wasn't a modification. It was a rescue plan. A private bailout brokered by a desperate, naive 21-year-old girl. The bank had agreed to stop the foreclosure. And I had paid for it. Every single month. For 8 years. I had funded their life, their legacy, their comfort, without ever realizing that I was building the very foundation they would use to betray me. They agreed to restructure the loan, but with one absolute, non-negotiable condition. A third-party guarantor had to step in. Someone with a stable, verifiable income who could co-sign the new agreement and assume full responsibility for the payments. That third party was me. At 21 years old, with 6 months of job history and a heart full of misplaced loyalty, I signed my name on the dotted line. I took my shiny new salary and aimed it straight at their mortgage. $4,150. Every month. Without fail. 96 consecutive payments. I did the math right there in the coffee shop on a napkin. 8 years times 12 months times $4,150 equals $398,400. Nearly $400,000. $400,000 I had quietly funneled into their lives to keep that roof over their heads. And the sickest part, the truly twisted part, was that they forgot. I'm certain that at first, they were grateful. My father paid me back 3 times, tiny sums, quick apologies, before getting a new, lesser job. Just until I rebuild my savings, he'd said. My mother, ever the realtor, had the audacity to call it a great investment for your portfolio. But over time, the story changed. Somewhere in their minds, they rewrote the past. They convinced themselves they'd skillfully renegotiated the loan. That the bank had simply lowered their rate out of kindness. My $4,000 payment became background noise. It became just something Imani does. Because I was the strong one. The reliable one. The one who handled things. My secret sacrifice became the invisible foundation of their entire comfortable life. It paid for the brick colonial. It paid for their status at church. It paid for their dinner parties. It paid for the very stability that let my mother stash away her commissions, the same commissions she later used to help Alicia buy her BMW. They forgot that I was their bank. They forgot that I was the only reason they had a house at all. And then, after 8 years of silence, they stole my $480,000 condo to fund a wedding. They didn't just bite the hand that fed them. They sawed it off at the shoulder. They thought they'd stolen my future. They had no idea they'd just personally detonated their own. I closed my laptop. The soft click of the lid felt like a judge's gavel. The 96-month rescue mission was officially over. The first of the month was 2 days away. The bomb was set. All I had to do now was wait. 10 days passed. The first of the month came and went in a blur of packing tape and U-Haul receipts. I was sitting on the floor of a sterile, overpriced rental in Midtown. The walls were paper thin, the view a concrete parking garage. My condo, my sanctuary, was gone. The new owners had moved in 2 days earlier. I'd cashed out a huge portion of my 401k just to cover the deposit and first and last month's rent. The 30% penalty made my stomach twist. I was unpacking a box labeled kitchen when my phone rang. The screen lit up. Mom. My heart didn't leap. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel despair. Just a cold, heavy inevitability. The second domino was about to fall. I let the phone ring 3 times, took a deliberate sip of my coffee, and then answered, putting it on speaker. Hello. No bubbly greeting. No hi, sweetie. Her voice was thin, tight, and confused. Imani, something strange just happened. The bank called, Truist. Oh? I said, casually pulling a coffee mug from the box. Yes, she continued, voice growing agitated. They said we are 10 days past due on the mortgage. 10 days. Can you believe it? They've never made a mistake like this before. I told them, I said we've never been late. It must be some computer glitch, some error in their system. I thought maybe you'd know what to do. I looked out at the concrete wall of the parking garage. The moment was finally here. It's not a mistake, Mom, I said calmly. A long pause. Dead air. What do you mean it's not a mistake? I mean, I stopped the payment, I said, unwrapping another mug as casually as if I were discussing the weather. A sharp intake of breath on the other end. You stopped paying? What are you talking about, Imani? You don't pay our mortgage. We do. The ignorance was staggering. Almost impressive. She had completely erased 8 years of my sacrifice from her memory. No, Mom, I said, my voice clear and cutting as glass. You don't. I do. The mortgage on your house, 1422 Magnolia Drive. The payment of $4,150. The payment I have personally made every single month on the first, for the last 8 years. Silence. I could hear her shallow, trembling breath. The payment, I continued, that adds up to $398,400. The payment that kept your precious house out of foreclosure 8 years ago, that payment? I stopped it. Imani, she whispered. Her voice no longer confused, trembling. I had to, I said, my tone bright, helpful, almost motherly. I just couldn't afford it anymore. I had to pay the security deposit and first and last month on this new apartment. Funds were a little tight. You know, since you sold my old apartment out from under me to pay for Alicia's wedding, I guess you could say I reallocated a family asset. She didn't speak. She couldn't. I have to go, Mom, I said. I have boxes to unpack. Goodbye. I hit the red end call button. She was left in the echoing silence of the financial ruin she had just discovered. I looked down at my coffee cup. The first domino had hit the second. And I knew the rest were about to come crashing down. The moment I hung up, my phone exploded. It wasn't just one call. It was a storm. First, Mom. I silenced it. Immediately, Dad. Silenced. A new voicemail notification. Then another. And a third. A text from Dad, Imani, call me right now. This is not funny. A text from Mom, Imani Janelle Washington, you pick up this phone this instant. You have made a terrible mistake. Call the bank. I didn't call the bank. I just sat on the floor, surrounded by cardboard boxes, and imagined the scene. The panic unfolding in their beautiful brick colonial in Alpharetta. The scene shifts. We are in their pristine cream-colored kitchen. Mom, Denise, is pacing in her silk robe, phone pressed so hard to her ear her hand is shaking. Dad, Marcus, is slumped on a bar stool at the kitchen island, face ghostly pale, listening on speakerphone. I'm sorry, Mrs. Washington, but as I've explained, there is no glitch, says a professional voice, calm and firm. It's Mr. Henderson, the loan manager. The payment was scheduled for the 1st. It was cancelled by the third-party payer on the 29th of last month. What third-party payer? Denise shrieks, her polished real estate composure evaporated. We are the payers, Marcus and Denise Washington. We've been paying for years. There's the faint sound of keyboard clicking on the other end. Ma'am, Mr. Henderson says, cautious now, like he's speaking to someone unraveling, I am looking at the confidential loan modification agreement signed by you, your husband, and a third party 8 years ago. This agreement was contingent upon a guarantor, Imani J. Washington, assuming all monthly payments. As those payments have now officially stopped, your loan is in default. Marcus makes a small, choking gasp. Default, what does that mean? We'll just pay it. It's only 10 days late. We'll pay the $4,150 right now. I'm afraid it's not that simple, sir, Mr. Henderson's voice hardens, turning ice. According to the acceleration clause in this agreement, the termination of the third-party payment plan triggers an immediate due-on-sale provision. What? Denise whispers, confusion and panic coiling together. The full remaining balance of your loan is now due immediately, Mr. Henderson says, his voice flat, immovable. Marcus looks like he's been punched in the gut. The full balance? How much? The current principal balance on your mortgage is $510,428, Mr. Henderson says. That amount is due within 30 days, or we will be forced to begin foreclosure proceedings. Denise lets out a high-pitched, hysterical laugh. 500,000? That's ridiculous. We don't have, her eyes suddenly light up with manic relief. Yes, we do, Marcus. The condo. The money from the condo sale, the $480,000, it's in the account. She scrambles for her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. She stops. The screen glows across her face. White. Frozen. Marcus, she hisses, voice low and dangerous. Where is the money? Marcus won't look at her. He was staring at the granite countertop as if it were the most fascinating thing in the world. The St. Regis, Denise? Marcus stammered. What about the St. Regis? They called yesterday. His voice dropped to a whisper. They needed the full catering and ballroom deposit, the full $300,000, and Alicia, her dress, and the planner. Chad's family, they wanted the platinum package. I froze, letting his panic build. Marcus, what did you do? He suddenly bellowed, voice cracking. I transferred it. I transferred it all, Denise. Just like you told me to. You said to pay all the vendors immediately so they couldn't back out. You said it was all non-refundable. You even transferred the last $80,000 to the florist this morning. A coffee cup slipped from Denise's hand and shattered on the pristine tile floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot. They just stared at each other. The $480,000 from my life savings was gone. Spent. Transferred. Non-refundable. And the $510,000 bill for their own house was sitting on the table, due in full, now. They had no savings. No liquidity. Nothing. Completely, utterly, entirely broke. The trap my mother had spent years crafting for me had just snapped shut, on her. I let them panic. For 3 days, I heard nothing. The storm of angry voicemails, the flood of threatening texts, went silent. It was a new kind of torture for them, a silence they knew they couldn't afford. They had no cards left. I had the money. And, more importantly, I had the truth. I spent those 3 days packing. Every box I taped felt like a small victory. Every item I wrapped reminded me that I was getting out. I was purging their influence. I was starting over, bruised, poorer, but free. The 30 days they had given me were ticking down. I had just finished loading the last box into my rented storage unit when my phone rang. Not Mom. Not Dad. Alicia. I almost didn't answer. I had nothing to say to her. But curiosity, cold, calculated, made me pick up. I hit speakerphone and set the phone on the passenger seat. Alicia's voice came through. It was not human. A shriek. High-pitched. Hysterical. You did this. You ruined it. I hate you. I hate you. I waited. Let her scream. Let it hang in the air like smoke in a sealed room. It's my house, my wedding, you witch. What did you do to them? What did you do? Through her gasping, ugly sobs, I started to piece it together, the scene at the Brick Colonial in Alpharetta that morning. She and Chad had been out all day. Cake tasting. Finalizing the 7-tier lemon raspberry creation. Discussing the honeymoon, first class to the Maldives, all paid for by Chad's father. In her words, she had been the happiest she'd ever been. Then they came home. She told me they walked in through the garage, laughing, swinging shopping bags. And then they walked into hell. The first thing she saw, she said, was my father, Marcus. Our strong, stoic, armchair-bound father. He was not in his chair. He was on the kitchen floor. He was in a heap, crumpled against the lower cabinets, sobbing like someone had died. Not just crying, but the kind of guttural, keening sound that hollowed out the room. My mother, Denise, the mastermind, was standing, motionless in her silk robe, a single sheet of paper clutched in her hand. Alicia told me her face was terrifyingly white, as if the color had been scrubbed from it. On their custom-painted deep blue front door, a neon orange sticker pulsed like an accusation. At first Alicia thought it was a prank, neighborhood kids, some joke. She screamed at them. "What is wrong with you people? Dad, get off the floor. You're being pathetic. Mom, what is that stupid thing on the door?" Denise didn't move. She only whispered, as if saying it aloud had already undone them, "We're ruined. It's over." Alicia, in her profound, entitled oblivion, didn't grasp it. She thought they were being dramatic. "Stop it," she said, petulant. "You're scaring me. You're ruining our good mood." Then my father, the man who'd always avoided my gaze, who'd told me to stop being dramatic, finally looked up. His face was blotched, his eyes raw and swollen. He looked at his golden child and said something he had never said to me, the truth. He told me, "Amani," Alicia shrieked into the phone, breathless. "He told me you paid for this house. He said you've been paying for it forever." 8 years, I corrected, my voice low. 4,150 a month. 8 years. There was a sound like a whale's cry on the other end of the line. Alicia's breath hitched. "He said the bank is taking it," she sobbed. "The letter says they're selling our house. In 30 days they're kicking us out. They're putting us on the street. 30 days. The number landed in my chest with icy weight. And then he told her about the condo, about the $480,000. He said, "Mom," Alicia choked on the words, disbelief turning to a dawning, savage comprehension. "He said Mom stole it, she took your money to pay for her voice broke. The realization cascaded through her, the dress, the St. Regis, the flowers, the 7-tier cake, the honeymoon, every glittering thing bought with my blood. The check that paid for all of it had just bounced." Alicia's confusion evaporated and left pure venom. "You did this," she hissed. "This is your fault. You set them up." "Set them up?" I asked, my voice unnervingly calm. "Yes," she spat. "You stopped paying. You knew this would happen. You were jealous. Jealous of me, jealous of Chad, jealous of my wedding. You couldn't stand to see me happy, so you ruined all of us. You'd rather see your family homeless than let me have one perfect day. I hate you, Imani. I will never forgive you for this." The phone went dead. Alicia had hung up, leaving only the echo of her venomous words in my ears. I sat in my car, parked among the sterile gray concrete of the storage lot, the engine off, the world silent around me. My mind replayed everything, her shriek, my father's confession, the moment he finally admitted it all, that I had been paying for their lives, financing their comfort, their status, their golden ticket dreams. Not for me, not for fairness, but simply because the truth could no longer be hidden. They were ruined. The house lost. The money gone. The dynasty my mother had tried to buy? Evaporated in an instant. I put the car in gear, pulling out of the lot. The storm I had unleashed was no longer a whisper of chaos, it was a hurricane, and it had just made landfall. Then a buzz cut through the silence. Harsh, grating. Not my phone. The yellowed intercom panel by my apartment door. I hadn't even moved in fully, hadn't given anyone the new address. My stomach dropped. I pressed the talk button. "Hello? Hi, this is Mike, the lobby attendant. There's a group of people here for you." My blood ran cold. "A group?" I asked. "Yeah, a family, Mr. and Mrs. Washington, Alicia Washington, and a Mr. Thompson. They seem very upset, ma'am. Should I send them up? No, I said, my voice cutting through the static, calm and absolute. Do not send them up. I'll be right down. I didn't go down. I walked to the grainy security monitor next to the intercom. I switched to the lobby camera. Black and white, yes, but desperation didn't need color. There they were. 4 of them huddled under the harsh fluorescent light. They looked grotesque. My father, Marcus, was a ghost. Slumped on a hard plastic chair, his suit rumpled, eyes glued to the floor, a man aged 20 years and 3 days and 1 morning. Hollowed, broken, defeated. Alicia, the perfect golden child, was a storm of frantic energy. Her hair tousled, her designer clothes rumbled and stained with tears, face blotchy and red. She paced in tiny circles like a cornered animal, radiating raw, chaotic panic. And behind them, my mother, Denise, once the queen of control, now visibly unmoored. Every elegant line of her silk robe looked absurd against the chaos around her. She was trying to collect herself, but the tension radiating off her made the cheap lobby feel suffocating. The scene was surreal. Their empire, the one they had built on my labor and loyalty, had collapsed into their faces, and they had no idea what hit them. And then there was my mother, Denise Washington. The queen. The master of appearances. The polished, perfect real estate professional who prided herself on composure and control. She was unrecognizable. Her once sleek hair hung limp and uncombed. The expensive blue dress that had probably been steamed and pressed that very morning was now wrinkled and dull, like she'd slept in it. Her face, bare, swollen, streaked with tears, looked years older. The illusion had shattered, and what was left was just a wreck of a woman. She was the one pressing the buzzer. Over and over. Her hand trembling each time, desperate. And then there was Chad. Not with them, not of them. He stood about 10 feet away, next to a dying lobby plant, detached and untouched by the chaos unfolding before him. His golden hair was perfect, his tailored blazer crisp. His arms were crossed, his expression unreadable, a mask of cold disgust. He wasn't there to help. He was there to witness. To judge this pitiful family he'd just married into. I let them wait. 1 full minute. I watched my mother's shaking hand hover, then slam the buzzer again. Finally, I pressed the talk button. My voice crackled through the speaker, slicing through their humiliation. Can I help you? Denise jolted like she'd been shocked. She scrambled toward the intercom, her face looming suddenly large and distorted on my screen. Imani. Oh, baby, thank God. Thank God, Imani. Her voice broke, frantic. Honey, please, you have to let us up. We need to talk to you. I can hear you just fine from here, I said. My tone was steady, cool, and flat as the concrete walls around me. Imani, please, she sobbed, the sound ugly and raw. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I made a mistake, a terrible, terrible mistake. I didn't understand the finances, your father, she gasped, tripping over her words, we just got so excited for Alicia. You know how she is. We made a mistake, baby, please. A mistake? I said, my voice cutting through her pleading. You call grand theft a mistake? I didn't mean to, we can fix this, we can make it right, she stammered, desperate, trembling. And then the truth slipped out. The real reason she was there. Imani, the bank, they're taking the house, she cried, her voice rising to a shriek. Our house. The neighbors, Imani, Mrs. Davis from across the street, she saw the orange notice on the door. She called me. She asked if we were moving. I just watched her. Her tears weren't for me. They weren't for what she'd done. She was crying because the neighbors had seen her shame. And the people at church, she went on, hysteria bleeding into every word, they'll all know. Do you understand what this will do to our reputation? The pastor's auxiliary, my mother gasped. I'm supposed to host the Christmas brunch. Imani, this will destroy us. This will destroy our name, our honor. Think of our honor. She was pressed against the glass door now, her palms flat against it, a mirror image of a prisoner begging for release. You have to fix this, Imani. You're the only one who can. Call the bank right now. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you'll start paying again. Please, baby, please, just make it stop. I let her words hang in the empty lobby. I let her sobs echo through the speaker. On the grainy monitor, I saw my father slowly lift his head toward the camera. I saw Alicia stop pacing, her eyes wide. I saw Chad, still standing apart, still silent, watching it all like a man studying an autopsy. I leaned in close to the intercom. No, the sobbing stopped instantly. What? Denise whispered. What did you say? I said no. I will not be calling the bank. I will not be fixing this. Her face fell apart in real time. Imani, you don't mean that. You're just angry. I mean it, I said. My voice was sharp, deliberate, and cold enough to freeze the air between us. I'm looking at you right now, Mom, and I can see it. You're not sad because you hurt me. You're sad because Mrs. Davis saw the sign on your door. You're not here to apologize, you're here for a bailout. I took a slow breath. You want to talk about honor? Let's talk about it. For 8 long years, I paid $398,000 to protect your honor. I paid to keep your secret. I paid to make sure everyone at church believed you were the perfect family. My father flinched. Chad's eyebrows lifted, just slightly, but enough to show he'd heard every word. And how did you repay me for that? I went on. You stole $480,000 from me. You sold my home to throw a party. You took my savings, my security, my future, all so you could buy yourselves a legacy. I leaned in one last time, my voice like a blade. You said it yourself, Mom. Sometimes one person has to make a sacrifice for the greater good of the family. This time, it's you. The words hung in the air like a sentence being passed. I watched her stumble back from the glass, her hand covering her mouth. My father buried his face in his hands. I think, I said, calm and final, that I've sacrificed enough. We're done. For a long, breathless second, there was only silence. Then, from the edge of the screen, Alicia exploded. Done? She shrieked. You're not done. You can't be done. She launched herself at the glass, slamming her fists against it hard enough to make the metal frame rattle. Let us in. Let us in, she screamed, pounding the door with both hands. You fix this. You're ruining my life. Her voice cracked, shrill and feral. You selfish, she slammed the door again, you selfish witch. The security guard, Mike, flinched visibly on the monitor. I saw him take a step back, his hand hovering near his radio. He looked torn between calling for backup or just walking out. Alicia kept hitting the glass, her face red and twisted, the perfect little princess unraveling in public. You've always been like this, she screeched. Always jealous. Always bitter. You couldn't stand to see me happy. I didn't press the talk button. I didn't say a word. I just watched her perform. Chad didn't flinch. His voice was cold, deliberate, surgical. No, it is exactly like that, he said. He turned slowly, his gaze cutting across the three of them. And because of that, the full balance of your mortgage, your primary residence, 1422 Magnolia Drive, is now due $510,428. 30 days. Or the bank will foreclose. Denise froze, her hands trembling over her silk robe. Marcus let out a small, strangled noise but didn't move. Alicia's mouth opened and closed, words failing her. Chad stepped closer, the sound of his shoes clicking against the linoleum echoing in the lobby. You spent someone else's money. You gambled with someone else's future. And now, he said, voice dropping, measured, cold, you are entirely out of options. No backup, no savings, no insurance. You handed over your daughter's money. And you have nothing left. He stopped, letting the words settle like stones on the floor around them. He looked at Alicia, whose chest heaved, her fists dropping to her sides. Do you understand now what it means to be accountable? His gaze hardened. You forced someone who loved you to sacrifice 8 years of their life, and now the world has made you face the consequences. Denise's knees buckled slightly, and Marcus slumped further into himself. Alicia's wide eyes flickered from terror to disbelief. Chad took a final step back, voice calm, clinical, merciless. And to clarify, he said, looking at all of them in turn, Imani is not the enemy here. She is the only person who acted responsibly. Every single one of you, through greed, vanity, and entitlement, left yourselves exposed. That exposure is not her problem. That exposure is yours. He turned toward me then, his face finally softening just slightly. She did what she had to do. I suggest you all remember that, he said quietly. And with that, he walked past them toward the lobby exit, leaving a vacuum of silence and shock in his wake. Alicia froze, her face paling, her mouth open in shock. The weight of Chad's words hit her like a brick wall, leaving her trembling, dumbstruck. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Denise's hands flew to her face, muffling a high-pitched wail, her knees buckling as the realization of their total collapse finally sank in. Marcus had not moved, still slumped against the chair, shaking like a leaf in the wind. His mind couldn't process it, 8 years of pride, 8 years of comfort, erased in one phone call. Chad turned his gaze toward me for a brief second, cool, calm, approving. He nodded almost imperceptibly. The silent acknowledgement was enough. Imani had done what the law and morality could not, she had executed justice herself. Then, without a word, Chad pivoted and walked past the 3 wrecked figures. His shoes clicked across the tile, each step measured, deliberate, a sound that echoed in the lobby like the finality of a judge's gavel. He reached the exit, opened the door, and stepped out into the daylight, leaving the Washingtons and Alicia behind, drowning in the ruins of their own making. The air was still, except for Denise's gasping, Alicia's low sobs, and Marcus's shuddering breaths. And in that silence, I realized something. I was no longer the powerless one. I had dismantled their illusions, shattered the golden mask of their lives, and reclaimed my own agency. I turned back to my car. Boxes still waited to be unpacked, my new apartment was bare, my bank account lighter, but my chest felt lighter too. I had survived their betrayal, their theft, and their manipulation. I had outlasted them. I had finally broken free. And for the first time in 8 years, I smiled. Imani, Tarek's smooth, even voice came through the receiver, calm as ever, grounding me in a way nothing else could. I have some news. I exhaled, letting my back press against the wall. Please tell me it's the good kind. There was a small pause, the sound of papers shuffling, the click of a pen. It's the final confirmation, he said. The transfer you flagged has been fully traced. Every cent your mother moved from your condo account was verified as unauthorized. We've filed the claim. Between the fraud report and the theft affidavit, the bank has already frozen her brokerage accounts pending investigation. For the first time in what felt like weeks, I let out a long, shuddering breath. So it's over. It's over, Tarek confirmed. You'll get some restitution through insurance, not all of it, but a substantial amount. And the property title, the one they forged your name onto 8 years ago? That's been officially voided. You're free and clear, Imani. Free. The word hit me like sunlight after years underground. Tarek's voice softened. I know this has been a hell of a road. But I want to say something, off the record. Most people in your position would have folded, would have tried to save them. You didn't. You held the line. That takes more strength than you realize. I smiled faintly, staring out at the city lights glimmering beyond the window pane. Maybe. But it doesn't feel like strength. It feels like survival. Sometimes, he said gently, that's the same thing. We talked a few more minutes, logistics, paperwork, next steps, and then I hung up. The apartment was silent again. Outside, the hum of Atlanta filled the night, car horns, sirens, life. I walked over to the single cardboard box I hadn't unpacked yet. On top was a photo, me, Alicia, Mom, and Dad. Taken years ago in front of that perfect brick colonial. I studied it for a moment, the false smiles, the manicured facade, then I slipped it back into the box and closed it for good. No rage. No tears. Just finality. I turned off the lights and stood in the soft glow of the city outside my window. My family's empire of lies was gone, but in its ashes, I had something they never would, peace. For the first time in 8 years, I didn't owe anyone anything. Just me, my name, and my freedom. I let that sink in. My chest was calm, my mind sharp. Foreclosure? I asked, my voice quiet but steady. Yes, Tariq said, almost giddy. But here's the kicker, they want to settle this fast. They've crunched the numbers. They know your mother and father have no liquidity, and your sister's platinum party is gone. They are terrified of protracted litigation and regulatory scrutiny. So they are offering a buyout. I leaned back, my fingers drumming lightly against the edge of the kitchen counter. A buyout? Exactly, Tariq said. They'll pay you a lump sum. Enough to cover everything you've lost over the last 8 years, all 398 grand of it, plus damages for your mother's fraud and professional liability. They're even throwing in a little extra for the trouble. You could walk away, Imani, with your money, no more legal risk, and no more family interference. They want it done quietly and cleanly. I pictured it, a check, a clean break, a life I'd been denied for years finally in my hands. My parents sweating, scrambling, powerless, while I sat calm and collected. And if I don't take it? I asked, my voice deliberately casual. Their lawyers are worried, Tariq said. Go to trial? You win. They lose everything. Your mother could lose her license. Your father could be personally liable. Your sister? Well, she'd be collateral damage in a very public collapse. But the bank doesn't want that, it's messy, slow, and they're terrified of the press. I smiled. Cold, sharp, calculated. 8 years of invisible labor. 8 years of paying for their lies. 8 years of keeping the entire Washington facade intact. And now, finally, the scales were tilting in my favor. Do it, I said, almost casually, sipping my coffee. Tariq's excitement was audible. I knew you'd say that. I'll draft the settlement. They'll sign, and within a week, you're officially whole. Every dollar returned, every liability off your plate. Clean slate. You want me to push this through immediately? Yes, I said. And I meant it. 8 years of debt, manipulation, and exploitation. 8 years of invisible labor that had kept them in their gilded cage. It was over. I wasn't just walking away. I was walking up, finally, fully, and entirely free. The first real smile I'd allowed myself in a long, long time spread across my face. It was quiet. It was solid. It was mine. And for the first time, I felt the city of Atlanta beneath me, not as a battlefield, not as a cage, but as something I could truly conquer. I watched Tariq's face go through 3 distinct stages, stunned, incredulous, then utterly baffled. By the note, he repeated slowly, like he was testing whether his ears were working. Imani, by the $510,000 note in cash? You don't have that money. You told me yourself, they stole your $480,000. I know, I said. My smile was thin and cold, the real thing at last. Exactly. That's the point. I laid it out for him, slow and surgical. Tell the vice president thank you for the generous offer to let me assume the loan, I said. Tell him I'm not interested in assuming anything. Tell him I want to buy the note, the whole $510,000, in cash by Friday. Your client will be out of the problem, the bank will have a clean closing. Tell him I'll wire the funds as soon as they clear. Tariq barked a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. He'll think you're insane. Good, I said. Then tell him why I'm serious. Tell him the $480,000 he wants to avoid is sitting in a chain of non-refundable vendor accounts and a brokerage account that was paid with funds the bank will now discover were moved fraudulently. Tell him those funds can be frozen, clawed back, or at the very least, subpoenaed in discovery. Tell him that if this goes to litigation or a state real estate commission inquiry, the bank won't just be a disinterested creditor, it will be in the crosshairs too, because his insured has used a licensed broker to engineer wire transfers that directly caused a default on a bank loan. That's exposure. That's headlines. That's regulators asking awkward questions. Tarek ran a hand over his face. They're terrified of discovery, he said, almost to himself. They'll sell their souls to avoid that. Then sell them something they want, I said. You tell him, I will buy the note for $510,000, cash, but on one condition. The bank must immediately initiate a coordinated recovery effort to return the $480,000 to me, freeze the florist, the venue, any recipient accounts, issue subpoenas, leverage the vendor holdbacks, and open a fraud investigation into Denise Washington's brokerage accounts so those funds are disgorged or frozen. In short, if the bank wants its $510,000 problem solved this week, it must use its legal and regulatory muscle to get me my $480,000 now. I'll wire the $510,000 the moment the bank confirms those funds are secured and a clear path to recovery is in place. Tarek's eyes widened. He leaned forward, his voice low. You just want the bank to fight the vendors and your mother, using their own internal resources, to retrieve the stolen money. And you'll pay them for their compliance by buying the note. That's bold. It's leverage, I said. The bank hates litigation and regulatory review. They'll either help me recover the $480,000 quietly and fast, or they'll face the unsexy nightmare of discovery, potential enforcement referrals, and a lawsuit that brings everything into the light. They will prefer the clean deal. Tarek exhaled, the sound like a man admitting the obvious. Legally, they can do this. They have subpoena power, they can freeze accounts, they can coordinate with vendor banks. And if they move fast, they might claw back enough to make you whole. But it's aggressive. It's risky. They'll want ironclad indemnities and an airtight settlement. Give them indemnities, I said. Give them a release. Give them confidentiality. I don't care. I want my money back, not a courtroom victory. The house is the bargaining chip. The note is the coin. I buy the note, the bank solves their exposure, and I get restitution. Silence on the line for a beat, then Tarek laughed quietly, the sound was equal parts admiration and relief. Okay, he said. Okay. I can make that sound reasonable to a vice president who'd like to sleep tonight. I'll call him. I'll present the offer, buy the note for $510,000 in cash contingent on demonstrable freezing and recovery of the $480,000 within X days. We'll set milestones. We'll draft escrow instructions, wire protocols, and a confidentiality clause that would make a nun blush. If they balk, we take them to trial and parade every email and closing document in front of a judge and the regulator. They'll cave. Do it, I said. Tarek paused. You understand what you're doing, right? This is going to burn bridges. This is nuclear. If it works, you get everything. If it doesn't, it will work, I interrupted. My voice didn't tremble. My mother was sloppy. She mixed her professional records with her personal thefts. The bank has a liability nightmare on its hands. They'll choose the quiet fix. They'll choose to give me back what they helped their client steal, or they'll pay for their silence with the litigation I'll happily force on them. Either way, the house and the money come back to me. Tarek drew a breath and then, with the lawyer's efficiency I loved, began mapping next steps. I'll call the VP now. I'll frame the offer. I'll give them 24 hours to respond. If they accept, wire instructions will be in escrow. If they don't, we file immediately and let discovery do the rest. I set the phone down, watched the city lights wink through the cheap blinds, and felt a rare buoyant calm. The chessboard was set. The bank had been handed a choice, clean fix, or explosive scrutiny. Either way, I was no longer being sacrificed. I was finally calling the plays. I could almost hear the sound of it all collapsing from across the city, the sound of decades of pride, status, and illusion unraveling. Denise and Marcus were powerless, their golden empire reduced to a footnote in an investigation they had accidentally triggered. Alicia's platinum dream wedding was now a case study in greed, incompetence, and consequences. By the end of the day, every dollar stolen from me had been clawed back. The $480,000 that had vanished into their extravagant indulgences was now sitting safely in an escrow account under my control. The house? Clean title, clear mortgage, mine if I wanted it, but now it was no longer just a home. It was leverage, justice, and finality all rolled into one. I stood in my cheap rental, sipping lukewarm coffee, watching Atlanta's skyline glow in the late afternoon sun. Every box unpacked, every bruise and tear of the past month, every sleepless night of planning, had led to this. The storm I'd unleashed had been brutal, precise, and exact. I hadn't just reclaimed what was mine, I had rewritten the rules entirely. Tarek's voice came back through my phone, calm now but tinged with amazement. Imani, you didn't just win. You orchestrated a complete reversal of power. The bank did your work for you, and your mother and sister, they're exposed. They won't be able to touch a thing without scrutiny for years. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it. I smiled. Cold. Perfect. Clean. That's what happens, I said softly, when someone mistakes their children for ATMs. And for the first time in 8 years, I felt it, the quiet, unshakable sense that I was finally free. Not just from the mortgage, or the money, or the betrayal, but from the people who had tried to cage me in their illusions of family, honor, and entitlement. I had survived, I had struck back, and I had emerged unbroken. Atlanta spread out beneath me, and for the first time, it felt like mine. Her shoulders slumped as if the weight of every lie, every betrayal, every inflated sense of pride had finally crushed her. She didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. The silence was deafening. The house, the once pristine symbol of their status and control, now belonged to me. Every brick, every square foot, every memory, paid for by my blood, reclaimed with precision and patience. Marcus stirred slightly, lifting his head, but there was no fire left in his eyes, just the hollow exhaustion of a man who had been undone by the very person he thought he could manipulate. Alicia lingered at the doorway, her hands limp at her sides, her perfect posture gone, her entitlement evaporated into air. I stepped forward. Not with anger. Not with gloating. I stepped forward with quiet authority. This was my world now. My house. My money. My life, restored. Denise finally broke the silence. Her voice was small, fragile, trembling. Imani. We didn't understand, I held up a hand. Save it, I said. My tone was flat, final. This isn't about understanding anymore. It's about consequences. You got to see what happens when lies and greed run unchecked. She nodded slowly, as if she were agreeing with a law she had no choice but to obey. Alicia said nothing, just stared at the ground, her chest rising and falling like a woman learning to breathe again in the thin air of humility. I turned and walked inside my childhood home, past the familiar door, past the slightly crooked staircase, past the rooms I had once silently paid for month after month. I paused at the living room window, looking out at the overgrown lawn, the cracked driveway, the remnants of their hasty eviction. This was the proof of my endurance, my strategy, my patience. The house was mine. My money was mine. My life was finally mine. And for the first time in forever, I felt it, not cold. Not calculated. But pure, unshakable satisfaction. The Thompson wedding could have happened. The Golden family could have flourished in their illusion. But they hadn't. I had. And I would never let anyone forget it. Outside, the magnolias were blooming again. The same trees that had shaded my childhood were now witnesses to something entirely new, me, standing on my own ground, in every possible sense. The yard was quiet. The U-Haul was long gone. The driveway, once filled with my parents' shiny cars, was empty except for my single, modest sedan. It suited me. It was honest. I leaned against the window frame, the afternoon sunlight warming my face. For the first time, I didn't feel the pull of old guilt or duty. I didn't feel like the girl who had to fix everything. I felt free, completely, beautifully free. My phone buzzed with a notification. An automated payment had just hit my account. $5,000, Magnolia Drive lease payment. I smiled. They'd paid it. Somehow, they'd found a way. Pride or fear or both had driven them to meet the deadline. It wasn't forgiveness. It was balance. The world had finally balanced. I walked downstairs through the echoing halls of my house, barefoot, coffee mug in hand. The floors creaked just the same as they had when I was a child sneaking down for midnight snacks. The ghosts of my family's laughter and lies still lingered faintly in the walls, but they were fading. Every fresh coat of paint, every new piece of furniture, every breath of honest air I brought inside erased them a little more. I paused at the front door, looking out at the manicured street, at the life that had once felt like a cage and now felt like victory. I thought of all the times I had been told to sacrifice, for family, for appearances, for the greater good. Never again. This was my house, my name, my story. And for the first time in my life, the story ended exactly how I wanted it to. Not with revenge. With reclamation. Wow, that is one immense story of patience, strategy, and quiet power. The way you framed it, 8 years of secret sacrifice, the slow unveiling, the meticulous reclaiming of both your money and your family home, it's like watching a masterclass in long game strategy paired with personal justice. I can feel the weight of every $4,150 payment, every sleepless night, every moment you were unseen but holding everything together. The lesson hits hard, being undervalued doesn't define your worth. And sometimes, real power is silent, patient, and measured. It's not about immediate drama, it's about setting up the conditions so the truth inevitably catches up. You didn't just reclaim a house or money. You reclaimed respect, autonomy, and the narrative of your own life. Turning a tool of exploitation into leverage for independence, that's a move most people would only dream of. The ending, collecting that $15,000 from the very people who tried to erase your future, it's poetic justice without theatrics. You became the bank, the landlord, the authority figure they never realized they were answering to.